The Russians have described as unacceptable comments last night by President Biden, in which he referred to events during the Russian invasion as genocide. President Zelensky has welcomed the comments.
I called it genocide because it's become clearer and clearer that Putin is just trying to wipe out the idea of being Ukrainian. And the evidence is mounting. It's different than it was last week. The more evidence is coming out of literally the horrible thing that the Russians have done in Ukraine. And we're going to only learn more and more about the devastation. And we'll let the lawyers decide internationally whether or not it qualifies, but it sure seems that way to me.
And Arise US Correspondent Eric Ham has been following the story behind President Biden's remarks, and he joins us now. What's being made of President Biden calling what's happening in Ukraine genocide, Eric?
Yeah, this was President Biden, I think, escalating this war of words that we have seen from him since he spoke in Poland just a few weeks ago, where we know at that time he said that it was time for President Putin to go. Now we see him calling what's taking place in Ukraine genocide. Again, neither of these terms are legal definitions. These are just this is just President Biden giving his opinion. It does not change the outcome. It doesn't change U.S. policy in any way, shape, or form. But what we are seeing here is President Biden beginning to, I think, speak a level of exasperation about what is happening on the ground. And also, that's why we're seeing the United States, at least from the White House perspective, becoming increasingly more aggressive in its resources that it continues to provide to Ukraine. In fact, we're learning from our sources that the White House is prepared to announce another $750 million in military aid to Ukraine at some point this week. And so clearly what we're seeing here is the White House is still projecting that it believes that Ukraine can actually win this war, and it can do so as the United States continues to ramp up, not reduce, the amount of aid it continues to provide.
So, as you said there, Eric, a new level of verbal attack from President Biden against Vladimir Putin. And you also mentioned that the Biden administration is preparing to expand the range of sort of weapons aid that it's giving to Ukraine. Do we know what this range will be? Because, I mean, the Ukrainians have been pleading for more and heavier military equipment, such as aircraft and artillery.
Well, at this time, we do not know the details. This was just something that we got anonymously from our sources inside the White House. And so there has not been even a time in terms of when the announcement will be made. But we do know that just recently there was a tranche of aid that was provided. We're expecting a briefing from the White House, the State Department, and the Pentagon in a couple of hours. And so, of course, we will get more details about what is the plan for providing additional aid to Ukraine. But at this time, there are no details in terms of what is going to be provided in this forthcoming round of aid from the United States to Ukraine.
And of course, I wonder how all this is affecting people in America, because I mean, we saw President Biden visiting farmers, and we're hearing talk that potentially there could be an economic effect in the United States in the weeks and months to come.
Well, there's already the concern about the rise in food prices. We know that both Ukraine and Russia are major exporters of wheat, and so there is a concern about that. Of course, that is seen to be likely to have a greater impact on third world economies more so than the United States. But again, based on what we saw with the consumer price index yesterday, Charles, already we're seeing a more than 40-year high in the rise of not just gas prices and food prices, but prices for hotels, airfare, and pretty much everything else in the United States. And so right now, even though Americans are actually making more money than they ever have, they're paying out a lot more of it. What the White House is attempting to do now, Charles, is they are attempting to try to tie all of this to Vladimir Putin's invasion in Ukraine. Right now, that doesn't appear to be working. In fact, only around 6% of Americans actually believe the inflation that they are seeing and witnessing and experiencing right now is a direct causation to the invasion in Ukraine. So the White House is going to have to be far more aggressive and far more, I think, creative in their messaging if they expect that to be a line that will actually work with Americans. Because right now, Charles, Americans are concerned about what is happening with their day-to-day, not to mention their pocketbooks. And oh, by the way, in the United States, there's still a growing concern that we could see another rise in COVID cases, as already one major city, Philadelphia, has now re-implemented mask mandates.
Well, thanks for that update, Eric. Let's shift gears slightly and talk about that shooting in New York. The police still hunting for the gunman who shot and wounded several people in a train subway station. They've named a person of interest. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, in fact, we just got new information that the gun that was retrieved at the shooting, a Glock 7, we are now told that it is the weapon of this suspect, Frank James, a 62-year-old African-American man who is still on the loose. And yesterday he went from a person of interest to now a suspect that they are looking for. In fact, we're now also getting additional information that they have video footage from 3 different vantage points of him entering and exiting that subway station. In addition to that, we know that they also found a key to a U-Haul truck that they believe belongs to the assailant that was rented out of Philadelphia. Also, Charles, there is a much wider net that is actually being used in this manhunt for this individual. We are now told that the U.S. Marshals is involved as well. And also they are looking at 3 separate locations, New York, where he has ties, as well as Philadelphia,
right,
and also as far as the Midwest as Milwaukee.
Very interesting indeed. Eric, thank you ever so much. Eric Ham, Arise US correspondent, talking to me there from Washington.